come for this press conference. Indeed, a very important one. And recently, our minister have actually announced that they're going to bring back local council election. And this is something that we've been looking forward to for many years already. All right. So we hope that everything will go on well. Before we start the press conference, I will just briefly introduce the people that are here. I'm Jaya from MyPJ, Chairman, and Tan Sri Aziz is from Safe Kuala Lumpur Coalition, and Datuk Ali, from also Deputy Chairman for Safe Kuala Lumpur, Fadia from C4, part of the MyPJ group, and Isham is the Deputy Secretary for MyPJ group, and our advisor, Derek Fernandez, who needs no introduction. Alright? Okay, we'd like to start off, first of all, by reading out to you our press statement. I hope every one of you got a press statement. Okay, in fact, the press statement I'll ask Datuk Ali to read, and then after that I'll follow reading the appendix.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good afternoon to everybody. Of course, the copies are already issued to all of you. The three coalition members are MyPJ, Jaya Coalition, Penang Forum Coalition, Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur, SKL in short. MyPJ, Jaya Coalition, Penang Forum Coalition, Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur, SKL, welcome the announcement by the Minister of Housing and Local Government, KPKT, on local council elections within 3 years. The elections for the mayors and councillors, local council election for the cities of Petaling, Jaya, MPPJ, Penang, MBPP, and Kuala Lumpur, DBKL, must be expedited, followed by nationwide local council elections within 3 years. This is in line with the aspirations to institutionalize public participation, strengthen democracy, and fulfill the expectations of the people in creating a new Malaysia where cities are people-centric, inclusive, clean, safe, harmonious, vibrant, and sustainable. A critical factor to achieve sustainability is a partnership between the local government and the rakyat, local community. This partnership must be directed to ensure that the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, are achieved. In achieving sustainable cities, SDG Goals 11, there must be strong institutions and effective partnership. We demand that the roadmap for the local council elections be 1. The election of city mayors for the cities of PJ, Penang, and Kuala Lumpur be carried out by June 2019. The election of councillors for the cities of Petaling, Jaya, Penang, Kuala Lumpur be carried out by December 2019. The election of council presidents and councillors for the rest of Malaysia be carried out within 3 years. Time frame stated by YB Zuraida Kamaluddin, Minister of Housing and Development. In the interim period before the elections, we advocate the following steps be taken. 1. Establish a working group consisting of experts and civil society immediately to plan for the execution of mayoral elections by June 2019 and city council election by December 2019. 2. 1/3 of the councillors' position be reserved for civil society and community representatives, whereby the names are nominated by civil society. Such representatives should not include economic interest groups, for example, chambers of commerce or other such business groups. The process of appointing all councillors must be transparent. 4. The councillors must meet an agreed minimum qualification as 10 of the Local Government Act 1976. Criteria require a majority of councillors to be ordinary residents in the area. They must have a proven wide experience in local government or have achieved distinction in any profession, commerce, and industry. The process of appointing members of the Majlis Perwakilan Penduduk must be transparent and institutionalized. The MPP must have fair representation from resident associations, places of worship, local tetangga, and management representatives. 6. The local council's budgets immediately provide allocations to carry out public education in support of local elections. Pakatan Rakyat manifestos in 2008 and 2013 have always strongly advocated for the restoration of local council elections. However, for the 2018 manifesto, Pakatan Harapan has used instead a broad term, strengthen the local democracy. We also note that in 2008, a quota for civil society and community representation was given in every council in Pakatan states as a form of check and balance to ensure that political interests did not override the Raya's interests. By 2011, it was evident that all the Raya's representation in the councils were hijacked by the political parties. The last 7 years were a dismal apology for civil society and community representation. It resulted in abuse of power and inefficient management of the local councils. The appendix will be given by Jeffrey shortly. Under the leadership of the new Pakatan Harapan government, there should no longer be any excuse or delay in giving the Raya the third vote. Local council elections will strengthen the rule of law in all the three layers of government. That sums up, and the principal endorsers for this statement will be Mike PJ, Penang Forum, and SKL, Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. I'm going to go through the appendix, and before I go through, I just want to emphasize why it is so important that we put in the appendix. In 2008, we were all excited when the Selangor government was with Pakatan, and there was a promise of inclusiveness and the inclusion of the civil society. And then a lot of local councillors were represented by civil society, at least about 25% of it. But 2 years later, all the seats are nearly gone, and replaced by political appointees. Now, at this juncture, we are coming to a new Malaysia. I think it's very important that check and balance must be put in. And in every case, it is always very certain that when you have got power, power corrupts. And it is very important that as the people move in now, they should surround themselves with check and balances so that they do not fall into abuse. We've seen a lot of abuses in the last 8 years when the local councillors were not represented by NGOs or civil society. Now I'm going to give you a list of some of the abuses, and we're going to read through all of them. And these are all documented. Among us, they've circulated all the links and all to actual news reports of things that are being abused. Okay, so that is why there is urgency that from this point on, in the 2 weeks' time when they appoint local councillors, they must bring back the NGO quota while waiting for local council election. Appendix. Local council elections are needed as the following abuses have been seen and documented. Examples of abuse in MPPJ. Councillor positions are given to unsuitable candidates by politicians as a reward for their political support. Number 2, political party appointed councillors intentionally working against the poor. Number 3, councillors using council enforcement officers to disrupt community meetings. Number 4, good councillors were terminated and replaced by ineffective ones with the official reason that their dismissal was because they have not performed their political duties. Number 5, councillors not supporting the Adun because they were often from different political factions within their own political parties. So this actually happened to Adun who didn't get any cooperation from their councillors, yes, from different political factions within their party. That hurts the public. Number 6, mayors were negligent in handling the maintenance of public housing, causing the loss of lives, but were unrepentant and indifferent to the victims' parents. We've got this documented in the video. City councils that over the last 7 years that have consistently underspent budgets and refused to be transparent in their financial reporting. We have seen local councils year after year underspending by 50 million, 100 million, and accumulating all this reserve, and this is all to the detriment of the rakyat. Number 8, wrongful ejection of councillors from full board meetings, which you are fully aware of, which happened in one of the latest council meetings. Not only in MPPJ, even in Penang, things happen. Number one, local councils has failed to discharge its duty to promptly publicize the draft local plan it approved in 2008 for public feedback as required by the Town and Country Planning Act. Number two, the state government has further delayed this process by not approving and gazetting the local plan. This has resulted in haphazard development, increased intensity, improper zoning, etc. Number three, frequent political interference from the state government on local council decisions. Example, local council is obliged to approve applications for development projects as instructed by the state government, even if the projects do not conform to the gazetted Penang State Structure Plan and established development guidelines. Number four, frequent political interference from ADUNs on local council discharging its duties. Number five, political party loyalists are appointed as councillors as a reward for their unwavering support. This is one of those things that's so common when we don't have local elections. Even in Kuala Lumpur, and seems to be not a similar story, examples of abuses in Kuala Lumpur. One, absence of local plan leading to planning abuses without accountability to residents. Two, residents have no means of providing effective input into the development of Kuala Lumpur, leading to over-commercialization without corresponding supporting infrastructure. Number three, no check and balance mechanism on DBKL and the Federal Territories Ministry. Number four, sale of DBKL land without open tender. So we attach the appendix to justify that there is a real seriousness that this change in local government, starting with the appointment of councillors in the next 2 weeks' time, and also the coming local council election has to be started immediately, and the public will be brought in to this consultation process. But there's quite a lot of talk about the legal ramifications of things, that things cannot be done so fast and all. So we will have Derek Fernandez, an expert on this area, to give us some talk about this part of it. Then later on we will invite members of the SKL, and MyPJ and Penang Forum to give their views as well in support of this statement. Can I ask Derek Fernandez?
Thank you, Jeffrey. First of all, I'd like to state that local government elections is no rocket science. It's not new in Malaysia, so you need to understand this. Prior to 1960, there were local government elections. Local government elections were only suspended by emergency laws on the alleged confrontation Malaysia was facing with Indonesia during a crisis, whereby the justification given for the suspension of local government elections was that the government was in an emergency situation and it could not risk having elections while it is trying to protect the nation. That was the alleged argument, and a law was passed basically suspending local government elections. So everything was already there before. Then in 1965, the Senator R.T. Naban was chairing a royal commission into looking at the workings of local government, clearly studied everything, looked into everything, and strongly recommended that local government elections be brought back. Sad to say, despite the recommendations of the royal commission, everybody did not want to implement local government elections until today. It's not been implemented for reasons best known to the government at that time. So what I'm trying to say is not new. So this thing about we need to study and all, the situation is all being studied, it's all being done. In fact, I go even further than that. The laws are already on the books. In fact, there is an election of local government Act 1960 already passed. It was suspended. It sets out the procedures and all those questions. It's already there. It just happened to be suspended. So in order to bring back the local government elections, the legal framework is as follows, and I'll give it to you. The first thing you have to do is you have got to amend the Local Government Act of 1976. Why? Because Section 15 of the Local Government Act 1976 says that local government elections, and these are the words, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any written law, all provisions relating to local government elections shall cease to have force or effect. So in other words, it says that any law, the 1960 law and the subsequent many laws on local government elections, will not have any legal effect by virtue of this law that has been passed. Okay, that's when they stop the local government. And then in replacement of that, section 10 says councillors and mayors are appointed by the state government. And there are some criteria, as Kratik pointed out just now. It's not anybody who will come in. The words actually are quite strong. It's quite a high standard if it is practiced in reality. Councillors shall be appointed from persons, the majority of which should be ordinarily resident. I mean, they must be living there. The majority at least. Now, who, in the opinion of the state government, have wide experience in local government affairs. So it means you must have expertise in local government. You must have experience. Now, if you can't fulfill that, then or who have achieved distinction in any profession, commerce or industry. Now, it's not has a degree. It is achieved distinction in the profession or industry. That means when the name is mentioned, that is the expert in this area. That is the stringent criteria. Or you can't fulfill that, then the third criteria is capable of representing your community leaders who can represent voices. So that was the criteria, but it was appointed. So that will have to be amended to say that these criteria, if you want to say that these criteria remain, it must be elected by election. Okay, so that's all. There are two amendments. Now the problem, or not problem, is this law, the Local Government Act 1976, is a federal law. It is passed by the federal parliament. Now, each state can choose to accept any part of it if they want to, because you can't force it down the state government's throat. But as far as the abolishment of local government elections and the whole, every state in Malaysia, with the exception of Kuala Lumpur, which is slightly different, I'll get into that in a moment, every state in Peninsular Malaysia has gazetted this law as part of the state law. So the first step is, this has got to be amended. Now, how long does it take to amend this? It's very, very fast. It'll take less than 100 days to amend this. In fact, the amendments are already known. Now, we have the benefit that two states, the state of Selangor and the state of Penang, for years kept saying, we want local government elections, we are all ready to go, but the federal laws are holding us back. In fact, one such state, the state of Penang, already prepared the laws, the amendments, but was stopped and had to go to the federal court. And the federal court said, yes, all this is good, but you need to amend this act. And in order to amend this act, you have to get federal parliament to approve it. And of course, that time they were in the opposition. They did not have control of federal parliament. Now, the lawyer who represented the state of Penang in this case to the federal court, fortunately now is the Attorney General of Malaysia. So he would, at the back of his hand, know how to make these amendments immediately and table it before the federal parliament. Having done that, after it has been approved by the federal parliament, that law is going to be taken and shown to all the state governments, and the state governments in the state assembly should also adopt these amendments in relation to the Local Government Act 1976. At the same time, they will all pass what has already been passed before, the Local Government Elections Act. This is 1960, they got 1965, they got a whole variety there, and that's it. You've got the legal framework for local government elections in Malaysia. That may take 3 months, maybe if you need double sitting of parliament, 6 months, okay? But if you need to sit at the state, but actually it can be done faster. I say 100 days is more than enough, but if you need to, a little bit more, one is understandable. Now, after having done that, you now go into the implementation. That will take a longer time because you need to invoke the election commission. Now the first question is, I don't know whether they're revamping the election commission, because judging from the delimitation fiasco before the last general election and the nonsense that was going on, the government might change the whole election commission. We don't know, that's up to the government. Having done that, then in terms of preference has to be given to them to draw up roles for local government election. Are you going to use the federal role based on where you stay? Because it's the Petaling Jaya method, it's Petaling Jaya address. If Penang is Penang address. Are you going to use the state roles, or are you going to have a fresh set of roles? So these are things that have to be decided, The roles have to be displayed. There's a process. You may want to say, I want to separate up the area into, say, in Petaling Jaya, section 10, section 11, section 18, one council. Depends on what you want to do. That implementation period will take 12 months, not more than that. So you're looking at about 15 months, realistically, to be able to hold your local government elections. Now that is only the technical and legal time frame. The political time frame is something different. That is for the government of the day, when they want to actually go ahead and do it from a political perspective. Now, I'm thankful that YB Zuraida Kamarudin is the first minister who actually gave a commitment towards local government elections. Of course, gave a fine frame within 3 years to do that. Now, we're thankful that there is this commitment. Now, the question of whether 3 years is the legal time frame or the political time frame, that is something, in my opinion, the legal time frame can be definitely shorter. But the political time frame is something which has got to be discussed with the public as how you want to roll out. Now, my PJ has made it very clear, we want the mayors immediately appointed. And this is extremely important for Kuala Lumpur, because Kuala Lumpur has got no councillors. The Capital City Act, the City Kuala Lumpur Act, remove councillors. So there's got one-man show running the whole city. One-man show running the whole city. Supposedly a minister who is supposed to set policy under the Federal Territories, the policy, general policy for guidance on general matters, not specifically say I approve this or you give that, and that's all the control there is in KL. So the dire need in Kuala Lumpur is extremely serious, that they need a person there who represents the people, and that is why my PJ has selected that as far at least the mayors or the Yang Dipertuas, in fact they're asking for 3 states, which is not a problem, immediately be elected. The elections for them go on immediately. And that is what they're asking for. They gave a time frame, actually a year, it's not immediately, they said within a year. Now these people are critical. The mayor exercises executive function, and this is something you need to understand. The authority to sign a check, to award a tender, all these kind of stuff, the important things, the hiring and firing of staff and the day-to-day management is entrusted in one person, not the council. The council is involved in policy decision makings and meetings where they vote and meetings go on. So these are very important people for that roll down change to take place quite fast. So these are the things which must be appreciated. I'll be open to questions later on any weaknesses or criticisms. Or there's actually really none. There's none. It can be done, and in fact, Penang and Selangor are ready to go. There's no need to convince the state governments. They have already pledged that they will do it for Selangor and Penang, without a doubt. Kuala Lumpur now, because it is all never under opposition, have given their commitment also, I understand, the MPs, to say they want elections for Kuala Lumpur. But out of the 3, Kuala Lumpur is obviously in the most dire emergency state at the moment now, because there's no more representation as far as the executive decision making is concerned for the city of Kuala Lumpur. That's it. I'm open to any questions on any area relating to this.
I think before the questions, we just get some comments from Safe Kuala Lumpur, and after the comments, then we open up the questions, and you can ask any questions you would like. Could I ask first of all, Tan Jaya Assis, could you give us some comments about the statement?
Thank you very much. I think it's a good idea with this press conference today, because from my own observation, many people in this country understand what local government is. They understand a lot about political issues, but not about local government. So I think this meeting today is really will open our eyes on issues that are involved in local government. Now, I am actually the chairman of Damansara Heights Association of residents, and by virtue of that, we form a sort of coalition among all the residents association of Kuala Lumpur. We call it Safe Kuala Lumpur. Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur. Now, I think all of you should know that Kuala Lumpur is the most important city in this country. We have called ourselves, the Kuala Lumpur, the city capital, the city capital of Malaysia. Not just of Selangor, the city capital of Malaysia. So it's the most important capital in the country now. So we have been independent for more than 60 years. As you know, I happen to know a little bit about all this because I was working even before independence. And I knew the aspirations of the leaders at that time to make Kuala Lumpur the real capital city of the country. At that time, Malaya, Ketuan Tanah Melayu. But later on, of course, we formed Malaysia. We just follow through. Now, we have also, right from early days, announced ourselves, Kuala Lumpur is a world-class city. Kuala Lumpur, a world-class city. I also uttered many times Kuala Lumpur is a world-class city, and in my previous occupation I went around the world making speeches everywhere, promoting Malaysia, promoting Kuala Lumpur, and I call Kuala Lumpur world-class city. Actually, all the friends of mine, including myself, we didn't understand what it's all about. What world-class city means. We said, even today, if you ask the mayor, he will tell you we are world-class. Okay, now, so why I'm stressing all this is the fact that if we recognize Kuala Lumpur as a capital city, we must give it proper importance. Now, over the years, we have been having all sorts of laws in this country, and I will come to the latest part, the latest one. The last law which we passed here is the Federal Territories Planning Act, 1982. Federal Territories Planning Act, 1982. Federal Territories means we have Jaya, Kuala Lumpur, and Lumpur. So of course, the most important, as far as capital is concerned, is Kuala Lumpur. The purpose of that was to introduce some kind of planning. Although we were independent 60 years ago, we were thinking only of planning in 1982. So we passed that law in 1982 to do the planning. Now, so we, the inhabitants of Kuala Lumpur, at that time, we were looking forward. Never mind very late, but still, we start from somewhere. Now, so in 1982, the DBKL people produced some kind of a plan and told the residents that please go through this plan and consider it, whether to make amendments or otherwise, and put forward to the DBKL and the government to be gazetted as the local plan of Kuala Lumpur. So, and I must tell you this, in the law itself, the 1982 law, it says the first plan that they must have upon the coming into force of that act is the structure plan. That they did. Structure plan they had, but the structure plan is not the plan as we think. It is only a statement of policies only. And then it also says in the law, as soon as possible, you should have the local draft plan, the local plan, draft local plan. That's very important. The local plan will specify the crop ratio, the area, the green area, the hills, the rivers and so on. Will show exactly what the land use is for. That's the most important, the local plan. And it says in that law that you must produce it as soon as possible. That was 1982. And then in 2008, which was already very late, they asked us as residents to go through the plan, and we spent a number of months going through this plan together with DBKL, together with the inhabitants of Kuala Lumpur. We had 60 over meetings, almost day and night, and produced some kind of a plan, hoping that the government, the DBKL, would approve it and gazette it so that we have a plan. And so happened that they also appointed me the coalition chairman at that time. After having done that, of course, I had my own job, I had to go and work. I left it to them. And you know, until today, the plan is still not approved. Despite the law says in 1982, as soon as possible. So until today, not a plan. Okay. We have not been keeping quiet. We've been writing letters, we have been meeting the officials of the DBKL and so on to make them do this. Sometimes they promise to do, sometimes they say they will look into it. And you know, as you know, that the thing is forgotten and so on. And of course, in the meantime, all sorts of buildings appear in Kuala Lumpur. In low-rise area, you have tall buildings. 50-year-old trees in the park, all cut down and build high-rise buildings. Why? Because they have all the discussion. They wanted the discussion. And I always joke with them. I said, why don't you approve people to build houses on the road? Even if you do that, nobody can question because there's no law. Unfortunately, they have not done that yet. So that is the real situation of Kuala Lumpur, which is actually shameful. Capital city of a very famous country, Malaysia. There is no plan. So we have been working very hard for many years, and lately we have got round to the MPs. Now we have a new government, so we told the MPs, the new government, you are the government, you have the power to make decision. Now we are telling you all this. We want at least two basic things. First, we want to democratize Kuala Lumpur. We must elect our own mayor. We must elect our own councillors. We must govern Kuala Lumpur ourselves. That's number. Number two, this plan must be properly approved and gazetted in consultation with the residents. This the MPs have promised us, and I think they have already done some work. They already asked the BKL to do all this. I think within a short while they will do, and we, of course, we will be following closely that this thing will be done. Democratize it and improve the local plan. The rest, I think, the people will know what to do. We will try and rectify all those mistakes that they have made. All the Kuala Lumpur residents want to be proud of the city. If we call ourselves the world-class city, we must justify that it is really world-class. Let's go. I rest there for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tan Sri Aziz. That's very insightful for all of us to know something about what has happened in Kuala Lumpur. Reminds me of what this Kofi Annan, used to be Secretary General for the United Nations. He says that we are no longer want to be passive observers of development, but we want to be active participants. From the last general election, you see the people coming out. It was a people's election, and it becoming to a new Malaysia. So I think it's been taken note that all public, all residents, all citizens wants to have a part, want to have a say in building up the nation. We have got representatives from Penang who can't be with us physically, but they're waiting to speak to you all as well. And they will just give you a short 3-5 minutes view of what this press statement is about. Let me just call them, and they are waiting on the line, I think. We are calling up Dr. Lim, who is a councillor for many years in the Penang Council. Dr. Lim Ma Hui is his name.
Hello.
Dr. Lim, you're on the air now. Could you give us some comments about the press statement?
Hello.
Hello, you're on the line now. You can speak.
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Hi, you can carry on now. We can all hear you.
Okay. Yeah, this is Lim Ma Hui from Penang Kuala. First, I would like to say Penang Kuala support fully the other two civil society and community organizations that are asking for, better governance at the local government level, and in particular that we should move towards local election in one form or another. And we welcome the announcement of the minister who said that she would like to see local election within 3 years. But in the interim period, I think what is most important is for the Pakistan Harapan government to implement in spirit, and substance the Local Government Act, particularly Article 10 of the Local Government Act, which states that in the nomination and appointment of city councillors, the emphasis should be given to pick the right type of people with the right qualifications, right? With professional background and all that, for people who are deeply committed to the local community. Nowhere does it say that there should be politicians. But very unfortunately, the Pakistan Rakyat government, both in Penang as well as Selangor, have not adhered to the spirit and even letter of the Abhinatan report in fulfilling mainly their local council with political appointees. I think that is contrary to what is required. So we now fully call on this new government, state government, to implement the report, to allow at least 1/3, of the councillors to be coming from civil society and community society. So I think that's the first thing, and I think it's very important. But in the meantime, a lot of resources I think should be put in to commission independent study and scale one as to what type of the local election would be the best suited for Malaysia. I know we are at the federal and state level practicing the first past the post election system, which has many faults. I think there are calls to look at the better forms of representation that are more inclusive, which is basically the proportional representation, which is more inclusive and includes groups, that may not be simply political parties. So, this study group should include people who are experts in this area and look at the experience of other countries. It should include civil society representatives as well as politicians. I think these are the two important demands that Penang Forum would like to see implemented. Hello.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lim. We'll be moving on to the next councillor, Salma Ho. So thank you very much for calling in. Is there anything else you want to add?
I can't make up what you're saying.
Yes, I think it's quite.
Reception is not very good.
Yeah. Now I say that's all for the moment. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. We're calling upon Salma Ho right now.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. The wonders of technology. Yeah. Someone cool. Hold on. There's always a backup number. They've got 2 or 3 headphones.
Hello, Jeffrey?
Hi, you're on the air now. Can you give us some of your comments? Yes, all of us can hear you. Yes, all of us can hear you.
Okay, so city councillor in NBPJ, and I am the representative for Penang Forum in the city council. So I'm very concerned about how, the way that the council is usually, it's very slow development. So cities and urban centers are at the forefront of the fight against climate change and social inequality. So we need the government to really take on to implement a new urban agenda that's making cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. In order to do so, we need to change the culture of local government because we can no longer tolerate business as usual. It is clear that local councils have not done enough to make cities socially inclusive or environmentally sustainable. Not that there is no development, but rather there is too much of the wrong kind of development and not enough of the right kind. Local issues are, for example, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Local issues. For example, should we allow our road slopes to be cut? Should trees be sacrificed for a wider road, a new road? Should we spend council money on more roads, or should we spend it on better infrastructure for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transport? Should we put the sewage treatment plant here or there? So, what can we do to make sure that more affordable housing is built rather than expensive condos which local people cannot afford? People need to hear issues like this being debated in an open manner. In every project, sometimes somebody wins or someone loses. but we need to we need to be more transparent. So if you have local elections, the culture of local government hopefully will change. They will become more transparent, more responsive to local residents. Councillors who are members of political parties may not speak according to their conscience. They may be pressured to toe the party line when it comes to development projects, which the state politicians have already endorsed. But I feel that with local elections, you might be able to get more councillors who are passionate about improving the local neighborhood and about protecting the commons, and who want to see the built environment be made more accessible for the OKU and the elderly. So with local elections, you can get councillors who don't care so much about their political careers, but actually want to make a difference locally.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes?
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's what I wanted to say. Unless you have any questions for me.
I think the questions will reserve for later. Thank you very much. I will put you on the order. Thank you. Bye. Yeah, could we have a very quick statement from Dato' Hadi and then later on Fadia?
Thank you, Jeffrey. Basically, of course, Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur is in follow through of what we started as CSK, a Coalition to Save Kuala Lumpur, in 2008-2009, when the draft plan was in the engagement stage. There was a focus discussion groups were held, and Tan Sri was then the chairman as well. So we had a coalition of RAs at that stage, NGOs and concerned individuals as well. So that's where we started, and after submission we were told by DBKL that the plan will be gazetted very soon. That was in 2012. So we were hopeful that in 2013 the plan will be gazetted. But from 2013, at every opportunity, many of us were raising the question with DBKL, from the Dato' Bandar down the line to the Director of Planning. And each time we were promised. In October 2017, several RAs were invited to a function by DBKL saying that they are going to present the draft plan the local plan to the Minister of Federal Territory to approve it and then table it in Parliament. On the eve of the function, we were told not to come because the function has been deferred, and that deferment is still today. So that's the background why we are very upset. So our contention was that if you are going to delay that, don't give any approvals for any development per se. That's all we are saying. Our contention is very simple. I mean, either you approve the plan and go through the plan and implement whatever has been agreed upon, or if you don't approve, you hold back the plans. When you come back, any approvals, you come back to the community. Because at the end of the day, the community is a stakeholder. We are interested because it affects all of us in the city. We are the stakeholders, and that's how the whole issue went. And of course, some areas were accused of demanding remuneration from developers and contributions from corporations. So that's how the minister conducted. So the whole issue was, and on top of that, 30 million have been spent. And I'm sure all of you are aware about the 64 plots of lands, which have been now thorough investigations going back. The files have been opened. Plus, we've also been told lately that there are additional some pieces of land which is under the PTG, which is the Pejabat Tanah and Galian. There are several plots of lands. So that we are now pursuing as to how to handle that. Just for info there, Jeffrey, in addition to the 64 plots of land, this is again issue which is through the Commission of Lands. So these are things which we are facing. While that is going on, institutional lands as per the structure plan cannot be developed. Such as, like if you take in Jalan Travers, which is Jalan Raya today, the Institute of Health, which is at the foot of Federal Hill, as an example. That's an institutional land. We believe there's a massive development going to take place in that parcel of land and the adjacent lands, which is Federal Hill. So we are counting our days, how long we are going to see Federal Hill. Federal Hill may vanish. So we hope the Pakatan Harapan government, which is in office today, would promptly react and respond to this and come forward and do something about it. I mean, that's only parcel of green you see in close to KL city proper itself. So that's in a nutshell, Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. Yeah, certainly the citizens want to take participation, but we cannot participate if information is hidden from us. Information is very important. One of our endorsers is also the Coalition for Governance, Integrity, Accountability and Transparency. We got C4 representing the coalition, a lawyer by profession. Fadia, would you like to comment?
If I may briefly add, we at CIPO fully support the demand for the local council election to be held. And I think if the government is serious about upholding good governance, if they are serious about cleaning up the country, they should take all necessary steps now to implement the local council elections. And as explained earlier, there are no reasons for the government not to hold local council elections. So we expect that they will take this seriously and take all the steps they need to implement in order to realize local council elections.
Thank you.
And I just add,
yes.
of course, some of the media personnel were there. On the 7th of June, we had a sitting session with all the MPs of Kuala Lumpur. We had invited all the 11 of them. 5 MPs plus 1 representative turned up. So a total 6. So we again reiterated the importance of the local elections, the draft plan. So they have assured us they're going to give this priority. But of course, we have also raised the issue that 3 years is too long a wait. We want the local plan to be gazetted within the period of 6 to 8 months max, and then the local election to come into play within a year or so. Because as Derek mentioned earlier, the structures, the systems are already there. Penang has had city councils till the mid of 60s. They already had something there. And secondly, Penang Pakatan Raya government has also gone to the court sometime last year to challenge and implement the election. So if they're gone, the system must be there. So that means the infrastructure, everything must be thought of. So I don't think they're going to reinvent the wheel or anything. There must be something ready. So they can go back to the election commission. They can go to the National Archives. Plus, they've already done an exercise to go to the court without having the necessary details. They would not have gone to the court.
Yes, right.
So that's our contention. So they don't have to wait for 3 years. Other areas, PJ, KL, and Penang, they can go straight away, faster than other areas. Thank you.
If I may, yes. What I personally, because I have got a lot of experience in government, I always doubt when they say 3 years. In normal circumstances in government, when they say 3 years, it will become 10 years. You see, first we want to ask them. Now they say within 3 years they are going to do it. Have they got an organization properly chartered to go through the processes of local government in the whole country, the cities, the towns, the local council? Do they have a body now to organize, to coordinate all these activities? When you say it will be done in 3 years. I mean, we ourselves, we know. When we want to do something, we organize ourselves. That's what you do. If you don't even have a proper organization or proper setup, how are you going to do it? And you know, the government system, to set up that organization itself, just to set it up, it will take some time. Who's going to kick off? Who's going to start? And that is why we want to urge the government now to really be serious about it. Have somebody to monitor the situation and a proper organization to organize these local government elections and other activities related for the whole country. And we, if you ask me, we want a special organization to be set up for Kuala Lumpur. If we have a special organization, it's not very difficult. We have so many experts now. Just put them together, what about plan? Somebody must start it. If nobody begins, I'm afraid we can't keep on waiting.
This is the sort of sincerity factor that we have.
Actually, just to add to Tansi, there actually is such a body ready to go if they want to activate it. The National Council of Local Government is already in existence under Article 95A of the Federal Constitution. That's the body which sets policy for all local government, Kuala Lumpur and any state in Malaysia. So a reference to 95A to restore immediate, just a decision in the meeting saying local government election to be restored. Immediately the Secretariat is the Ministry of Urban Wellbeing, Housing and Local Government will start implementing the decision of the National Council for Local Government. So the mechanisms are there because it's nothing, this is just one issue. There are many issues which the National Council of Local Government sit and it immediately operates for the whole. So the bodies are ready, they have to be activated. Activated is mainly a call by the government of the day to the National Council of Local Government that we want to restore local government elections. A decision made immediately by the National Council of Local Government to restore local government elections, and that decision will be implemented through the Secretariat, Permanent Secretariat, the Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Urban Wellbeing, Housing and Local Government. And that's as straightforward as it can be done. And it can be done fast. It does not have to be done, like I said, it's not new thing. It's already there, suspended, and now carry on.
Yeah, we just hold on to questions first.
Isn't that the election commission's job
Yeah.
to organize elections?
Could we just hold on the question? We have just one last perspective from MyPJA. Could we get Hisham to share first and then we'll open up to the question?
I'm from MyPJA, I'm Engineer Isham. MyPJA and its predecessor, the Coalitions of Good Governance, has been the leading advocate for local council elections. We started doing this since 2007, even before Pakatan won Selangor. In fact, we are very much aware that there are fears, there are oppositions to having these local council elections. In 2008, the Coalitions of Good Governance was commissioned to study on the possibility of conducting a local elections for PJ as a showcase. We were ready to implement it, but there was a spanner thrown into the works. A political party, a coalition member was against it, so it was stopped. So that was 2008. And we are also aware now that there are, even within Pakatan, there are political parties that are against it. There are NGOs representing Bumiputras that who have been raising these concerns and fears that what happened if there is a local council elections. Yeah, we take cognizance of those fears and concerns. I think that's very important to address those fears, and that's the reason why we put into our demands or our advocates the establishment of a working group to study how could we allay these fears, how could we allay these concerns. And part of it is education. And if you look at the item 6, we need to educate that yes, there are people who are concerned. And if they are aware, for example, that in Petaling Jaya, Bumiputra represents more than 50% of its population, yeah, that could be one way to address those fears. So through education, through advocacy, we see that those concerns, those fears, but the greatest concern would be the political oppositions. I think those are things that needs to be addressed by the top political warlords. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm sure you have a lot of burning questions. Could we have two questions from the press?
Just one thing. Just now you listed all the abuses, just as in Penang, PJ, and KL,
Yes.
among other things.
Yes.
So can we say that it is imperative for the process to introduce local government elections be done as soon as possible in order to allay further future abuses? Especially since you listed so many here across all the states. Since some of the states, actually many of them, have sort of like made institutionalized the certain forbidding against having a local government elections in that act through their own state laws themselves. So, what do you think? Is that the reason why to get the process started as soon as possible, so that you can allow the state to start dismantling these state laws themselves to allow everything to run smoothly nationwide?
Any of you like to answer that? Urgency of implementation.
Okay, you need to get this in perspective. Local government elections does not necessarily equate to higher level of efficiency, does not necessarily equate to less abuse. Okay, because we have state government elections, we have federal government elections, we have elected people who are abusing their power every other day, and that's why. But what it does, it instills accountability in of that position. It gives that accountability in the hands of the public, control over that accountability. So if a person does not perform, the public can remove that person from office. That will be a major part in reducing abuse, because everybody's watching. If you misbehave, you will be removed from office. That power is given back to the people. That power is not put in the hands of a person who is not accountable, who is not elected, in the sense not accountable, the person who is actually making that decision, that person makes the decision, not the public. So accountability is the key here. And that accountability is back in the hands of the people. Of course, you can appoint a very a good person, full of integrity, to manage, even though that person is not elected, and that person may manage well, or they may manage badly. It does not necessarily mean because you're elected, you're any guarantee that that person's integrity is there. But it gives accountability, and that is critical, because if the public is not happy, they will throw that person out. That power goes back to the people. That is the most important part of restoring the third vote. Now, we have no problem about doing that at federal and state. Nobody questions why we have elections for federal government. You know, nobody has any sensitivities regarding one race will dominate another at federal level. They don't have any sensitivities in relation to state level, and there should be no sensitivities for local government, because when you look at the total mass of the population over the whole peninsula, you'll roughly get the same breakdown in areas as you are in the general election and as well in the state government election. So it's not an issue actually. So it's accountability.
Any other question? Yes?
Yeah, you mentioned Pakatan Harapan's manifesto didn't include local council election promise. Could you give me a background? Why did you fail to lobby this specific request to include in the manifesto of Pakatan Harapan government?
May I interject here? In the case of Kuala Lumpur, the 11 constituencies from 114 to 12024, 11 constituencies, we from Selamatkan Kuala Lumpur have reached all the candidates. We didn't only go for Pakatan Harapan, we went to all the candidates of the 11 constituencies and put up our manifesto, which is basically demanding all the 4 core items, which is democratization, that is local council election for mayor and the councillors. 2 is enhancing the green and open spaces for public use. 3 is prior effective engagement with the Rakyat over any development. And 4th is the gazetting of the local plan immediately. And out of the 11 constituencies, 11 candidates from Pakatan Harapan, or rather 1 independent and 10 candidates signed the document. 2 Barisan National candidates signed the document. 1 PAS candidate signed the document. Total 14. And out of which now 11 are there. So KL is 11 to 11 total 100%. Plus federal government is Pakatan Harapan. So we are now pushing them. That's why we had a meeting with the Pakatan Harapan MPs on the 7th of June to tell them, look, these are the documents you have signed. We want this to be on priority. So we are pushing them. That's the response for KL.
Okay, for Petaling Jaya, the same. Before the manifesto even came out, the coalition, for governance, integrity, accountability, transparency, has gone to every politician. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, before the elections, GIA is Coalition for Good Governance. We came up with 5 demands for good governance, and we managed to meet with a number of political parties. The first one was Bersatu, and However, they agreed essentially to all the demands except for local council elections. So I think, of course, they have a lot of reasons that they're giving us today. But I think after this press conference, it's quite clear that these reasons are not substantiated. And I think we have to move forward if we really want a country that is transparent, a country that functions with integrity. They have to start considering holding local council elections as soon as possible, because everything is there. We just need political will to make it work.
Can I just add, when you say manifesto, there are not just a written manifesto, there are several ways about which a promise is made by a political platform for the purposes of election, for the purposes of a promise to secure votes. And there are several ways. One can be an official national manifesto, so there are promises contained therein. The second can be what has happened here. Individually, for certain areas, they have signed their commitment. They've given that commitment, most of the time in writing, and given that, saying that they will restore it. So the people say, there's no need for you to put in the national manifesto. You've already given us that commitment. We will take your word for it because that's the basis upon which you're offering your candidacy. That has happened in a number of areas. Now the third and most important, which actually renders everything irrelevant today, what you're saying is, you've got a federal cabinet minister giving the commitment. A federal cabinet minister has said they will restore local government elections within 3 years. So we don't have to go back and talk about promises anymore. The promise is there.
Yeah.
The only question is, how do we go about it? And obviously, the coalition feels it should be done sooner than later. It can be done fast. It legally can be done fast. In certain areas, as per their statement, they've given down a timetable whereby that's the fair thing to do. And in the interim, pending all that, you should put in more civil representation, civil society representation in local government. So there's not an issue of promise anymore. The promise is made, and like I said, kudos to Zuraida Kamarudin, first minister to actually place on record the federal government. She's a cabinet minister. So we must take that as the view of the government, and there's no need for us to go and inspect promises anymore. It will be restored. That's what is being said to us.
Okay, I'll add one very important point here, and that is in early 2008 and 2013, the promises in the manifesto, written promises, are for local council election. But yet, in principle, when it is applied, they took away all the councillors from NGO. So, even though it is written, they may not implement it. And this time, we have advocated for it to be included, but they watered it down. And that is why we are very concerned. We are testing the sincerity factor now, and in 2 weeks' time, you will see whether they are sincere or not sincere. If they have given 25% or 30% to the NGO councillors quota before and taken back, that was a failure. But this time, in a new environment, will they give back the NGOs their quota? Right? And the NGO councillors that are being proposed, later on you will have a look. For PJ, we have got them all listed out. NGO councillors, they range from lawyers, engineers, quantity surveyors, lawyers, artists and community builders, ex-MPBJ councillors, management consultants. We got the whole list of them that will work cohesively together. So there will be a test of sincerity in the next few days to see whether they will set the wheels in motion or not. If they say they're going to have 3 years local council election, it will start off, number one, make sure that NGO council's quota bring back. Number two, like what Tan Sri Aziz said, is there a mechanism when you start to look at it? Don't tell us in 6 months' time you start looking into it. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
Jeffrey, if you allow me just to briefly mention that restoring local elections is not something that was only proposed 8 years or 10 years ago. The respective governing parties now have promised them from as far back as 1965. I don't want to mention a party. Okay? Well, I can mention it was the DAP. Even PKR promised it as far back as 1999. So, we must make them deliver. And all this pussyfooting about 3 years and it's total rubbish. We have the election commission, which has nothing to do right now because they're finished with the GE. If they are directed to organize local elections, believe me, they can do it in 6 months. So we've had enough of all the rubbish excuses. You know, you can come up with all kinds of ridiculous, like the minister herself said, must wait for the economy to stabilize, must find the budget. These were never raised in the past 50, 60 years. You remember the reason for banning local elections was Indonesian confrontation, and that was in 1965. The war ended in 1967. So I think we've had enough of all this rubbish. I've done my own research. Even the totalitarian countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia and China have local elections. They elect their mayors. 95% of the world do that. Why are we different? Why are we about the only country, only advanced economic entity that refused to do this?
Yes,
So we really cannot tolerate this anymore. You know? And I think that Tan Sri alluded to the Act. The Act lays down very, very stringent criteria for a local councillor. Derek can tell you that from the top of his head. In fact, it's more difficult, if you go by the criteria in this country, it's more difficult to be a councillor than to be an MP, Adun, even Prime Minister. Because there are no criteria laid down for that. But for local councillor, the law as drafted and Parliament and the Cabinet, they already envision they need people of caliber to run local council. But what has happened? I'm on record as saying that the quality of councillors have deteriorated under Pakatan government. You know, prior to that, under the end, I believe by and large the requirements of the Act was respected, except some were crooked. But they are qualified people, but they will be crooked. But since then, we've had political functionaries. Basically, the MPs and the Adun and all the political masters are making use of council appointment to reward their own political functionaries who do legwork for them and conveniently park their salaries under the council. All right, and we all know there was a case of an MP who wanted to appoint his driver to be a councillor so that he doesn't have to pay the guy anymore. And we've got to put an end to this nonsense. I mean, I sound quite agitated, but I've been harping on this for 50 years. You know, from the time I was 50. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right. That is the general feeling of most people in the public. A lot of agitation, but they can't really express it out. Yeah, let's see whether there's any more questions.
Yes, I'd just like to know. Sorry,
Let press first.
Sure. Yeah, I'd just like to know. Tan Sri said some of basically people do not know or well exposed to what is a function of government or what is a function of council itself. So I know you guys talking about advocating in terms of education, but how do you expose the public to what is the responsibility of council?
That's actually a question which I addressed in the BFM interview recently, which was aired. You can go to the podcast about what functions we do. So it's such a wide variety of functions that no person living here, the moment you get in your car to go back home, you are already involved or interacting with many areas of operation of local authority. So basically, we start off with streets, anything to do with the streets, roads, drainage, all that under local authority, licensing, health-related matters, building control, development control, parking rates. So if you look at the law, there's like, Section 73 and Section 1, it goes into pages and pages to establish, maintain and compel the use of any service for the removal and destruction or dealing with any rubbish, litter, dead animals, all kinds of refuge, effluent, blah blah blah, to keep places clean, free from filth, rubbish, litter, refuse, and to prohibit the throwing, the dropping of any rubbish, to prohibit, remove, abate and prevent any nuisances, and it goes into pages and pages and pages of what we do. So to you, almost every day you will interact with the local authority from the moment you get up and get out of your house. Even your gate, your house design, your building, all has got to be approved. to build a house, to get on the road, pothole, the traffic lights, the parking, how much the rate is, 60 cents or $1. The moment you get to your business, whether your business is duly licensed, if you run a restaurant, whether you provide the health services, so you cannot escape. It is the most direct interaction of any government with members of the public is the local authority. If you want the relevant sections, I can give you, and you can actually list it down if you're going to write an article, and you can just reprint it. And most people sort of, I agree, you can't tell the difference between state government, federal government, and local government. But when they rubbish, they know the complaint, not collected, so they're beginning to know a few things, But yeah, but that's, most people don't know the difference between state and federal, what is the areas of overlap. So section 101 of the Local Government Act 1976, you can record that down, talks about the powers of the local authority, you can go through all that. And the other section is section 73. So 73 and 101 got pages of what we do.
But let's be very definite on this question that you asked. It's a very pertinent question. We have always told the local council that you have been spending too much time on infrastructure and not on the people structure. The people do not understand what's the role of the state government, the MPs, the admins, and the councillors. So every time they have trouble, they run to the councillors, and the councillors get a earful. But really, it's the system that MPPJ is supposed to set up that we will look after. So the failure of the councillors for the past 10 years is that they don't work on the system, they work on their individual powers. So if you come to me and I'm a councillor, I can instruct them to get your problem solved. But you do not want to keep running to councillors to solve the problem, you want the system to solve the problem. So the failure of councillors right now is they cannot create systems to look after the rakyat. They are solving it on their own and they cannot continue with that. So MPPJ or other councils must allocate resources for the education of citizens in their citizenship education, and that will have to bring in local council election into the council. Okay, yes.
Thanks for the plug, by the way. But the bit about establishing a working group and the concerns that the minister doesn't seem to have a sort of clear direction as to where to go before she reaches that 3-year mark. What are your thoughts about PF, MyPJ, and SKL forming that working group, and then when the minister is ready, you present it to her and say, hey, the work's done. What are your thoughts on that?
What's my thoughts?
Okay, we, SKL, we already engaged with the MPs, and we already planning to contact the minister since she has made a statement now. In addition to that, we also written the Prime Minister on the no necessity to have an FT minister and to ask for an engagement. In addition to that, we also gone to IRC, the Institutional Reform Committee, and put up our demands as well. So we are going through various channels to achieve the goals, so that you don't just rely on one and you get a negative reply and then it ends there. No, we are going through multi-pronged directions to look at the to target the goals.
We have to answer you. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, it is a good idea for the minister to ask for consultation. So you probably open up a time frame whereby you ask consultation and submissions in terms of what you think advocacy groups give their ideas about local government elections. So that should be done. That should be done as part of any move to go into local government elections. Certainly you need to have stakeholder consultation. So groups like these groups and whatever members of the public, advertisement in the paper can come about. We are considering local government. We've got a timetable. We welcome representations from you and your thoughts on the matter. If necessary, we will categorize them and we will hear you out and maybe call you. That can be done. That's nothing unusual in local government. We do that all the time when we do local plan amendment. Thousands of people, we get them to object, we call them, we consult, we let them their views. It goes through. Consultative process is not difficult to do, that can be done. But again, let's all not think that we're trying to reinvent the wheel. It's all being done. The drafts are there, so the draft legislation should be circulated to everybody for comment. And then they can give their comments, advocacy groups, and get on with it. It's not reinventing the wheel. The will is there. Like I said, there is a law already here that was ready to go, but was stopped by emergency legislation. So the moment you take it out, this law comes back in your face, and this contains a lot of the issues. You may want to amend or change some policies in that, and that's where the consultative process is. So I hope the minister will do that, and I'm sure she will do that, to have some consultation with advocacy groups, but don't drag it on. You get a time frame, I think that's it, within that time frame, and then immediately move on.
I think the short answer to this is, as far as the three groups are concerned, we cannot wait for 6 months to start looking at all these processes. We cannot wait for tomorrow. We are starting today. In fact, we have started yesterday. They have done their homework already. We have done our homework, and we are getting all the town planners and all the experts coming together on our own to define what kind of city we want. All right. So if she's going to be late, then you see a lot of noise coming out from the three parties, because we are all working cohesively together, and it can be done now.
I think the exposure draft, that you're saying you do all the work, prepare everything, give one package and say now pass the law. No, we did that. We did that in the delineation case. The government's lawyers of State of Selangor, together working with all the NGOs, came up with a delineation or division of the whole state that best accords to the principle one person, one vote. You know how much money had we spent? They took it and threw it in the dustbin. They didn't even bother about it, the Election Commission. And it was such a brilliant delimitation and a lot of money and time. So the onus is the exposure draft. It's just consultation, then come up with an exposure draft circulated, then comments and all that on draft, and then hear that, and then come up with a final product. But to put the onus on civil society to come up with what already is done already, it's not necessary.
Well, I listened to the interview on BFM with the good minister, and I was concerned because he said that at the end of the 3 years, the study would be ready. The study would be ready at the end of 3 years and would be presented to the cabinet. That is a great concern. So in fact, the process of watering it down has already started. So the advocacy here, we need to put on the pressure. We need to put on the proper roadmap. We need to keep our fingers on the tap.
Sorry, just wondering, are there efforts being made to have regular consultation with the minister? I mean, PF, YPJ, and SKL, you guys would be great showcases for how local government elections can be conducted. So using these as well as sort of a showcase, as a benchmark, what are your thoughts about having regular consultations with the minister herself?
In the case of Kuala Lumpur SKL, we have requested the MPs that every quarter we should meet and review what's happening and what needs to be done. So they have agreed in principle, those who came on the 7th, agreed in principle. So that we will be pursuing. We will be meeting in it by sometime this week to draw a working group. We also talked about the working group to move on the draft plan and the local election. They have really agreed.
But what I think is going to be a major issue, because we are working in accordance with government procedure, the basic issue is the budget. All this costs money. To draw up the electoral rules, to do all this planning, it all require money. And that must come from the budget. Who is going to do all that? That is the process that we have to identify. We have to work closely with the MPs and so on. They have to identify that very quickly. Otherwise, at the end of the day, they say, oh, sorry, we have no budget. But time has passed. And this is what they say. We know this, we have to play safe right from the beginning.
I mean, he's absolutely right. Most of the city councils, some of the city councils have got enough budget, like MPBJ, like even DBKL. I mean, they got huge budgets. Certainly, the democratic right to vote should not be denied on the basis that, oh, it's going to cost money. Now, the point about all this is the opposition parties were ready to go. They went to the federal court. They're telling them, they sued the government to say, we are ready to run like a horse for local government elections, but you are stopping us. And they went all the way to the federal court. How much that would have cost? And one would think that if the federal court said, yeah, you're right, you can go and have it tomorrow, they are ready to move. And all these matters should have been dealt with early. You would not go to the court and then come and tell and say, I've got no money now to do it. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you would have been ready to say, I've planned, I have the resources, we are ready to move, but we have been denied our constitutional right as a state to be able to hold local government elections. And that is why we went to court. So it's not as if this is all not being done. This is all old story. We should not make more story because 2 states and 3 states are ready to go. DBKL operates on the highest budget in the country, billions of dollars, and you can't hold an election. But small cities all around the world, dictatorships or so-called all over the world can do it. Countries which do not even have much money are able to do it. So I don't think cost is a big issue.
Can we have Dr. Bala's question and then one last question after that?
I just tried to find out Mr. Derek's view. You were saying that the states, if at all you want to pass the local election act, you have to go back to the state assembly after the parliament passed. But in the case of DBKL, in the case of KL, that means is it bypassed because it goes straight, or is there
My comments don't apply to Kuala Lumpur because Kuala Lumpur is a federal territory.
So
it is governed by the Federal Territory Act, so you just have to do it once.
So there's a parliament.
That's it, yeah. And when you amend the relevant City of Kuala Lumpur Act and those acts, but they're all federal acts, they can be amended by Parliament. So for Kuala Lumpur, it is easier. It's only one level.
That is one. Another point which I think maybe we are focused so much on development. I think there is also some element of focus should be also on safety. Security safety of these areas, which I think has been also a bit neglected because as far as the police are concerned, I think they are understaffed. And I was in fact suggesting to SKL at one time also, maybe one of the manifestos, we should also suggest for KL to have their own police, sort of privatized police.
We've actually thought of that problem even before you raised it. Petaling Jaya was one of the first city councils to have an auxiliary police force.
Yeah.
But at that time, the Inspector General of Police limited the powers of the auxiliary policemen to us sitting there and guarding our own assets, our own buildings, while we wanted the right to patrol on the roads to provide that extra measure of security. We were denied that power because they said that's a police power. And that's not your power, even though you're auxiliary police, the primary function of the Royal Malaysian Police Force. I actually, just before last week, told the Director of Enforcement to now apply again to the Inspector General of Police, whoever he is now, or the new person, to ask for extended powers to allow us to carry out that policing function, to give that extra measure of security. So similarly for Kuala Lumpur, if the police force wants local authority to take responsibility for security within their area to complement and augment the police force, but nevertheless in public places, the local authorities, certain ones have the money, we are willing to rise to their challenge and do it. The problem is they have denied us that power. In other words, we can only guard our MPPJ building like that with a gun and sit down there. We cannot patrol in a car and go to a public area or go to housing estates, which we were willing to do, but we are not allowed to because we are auxiliary police.
Any last question? No?
I'm going to ask this question. Okay, how is it going to be run though? I've never experienced a local government election. How is it run?
How is it run is you go to what you do is, first of all, candidates' names are given. Now, if you want to maintain the criteria in section 10, first of all, you can say anybody can be. Just like state election, like federal election, you can go in. Okay? Now you decide, first of all, nothing in this act says you have to be a political party to stand in any election, by the way. In federal election, state election, there's no issue of political parties. Political parties are just groupings of parties who are now putting forward candidates under a particular logo. So what you do is, you first of all identify the field of candidates, whether you want criteria, no criteria, and who determines the criteria fulfilled or not fulfilled. Okay, you put that in the amendment. So you say section 10 applies subject to there being elections. Then you have a nomination period like you do, whereby candidates prefer themselves. To stop 1,000 fellas going in there, you may put a deposit. A deposit so you don't waste people's time. If you've got no support and you're not capable, you're going to lose your deposit. So you put your names there on a list. And then of course there will be a process whereby you to see whether you comply with section 10. The election commission can do that. They've been doing that and rejecting people saying 2,000 fine, they know how to do all that. So if you get a proper election commission, which is properly constituted. They can go through to see your qualification, you have to verify all the details, and then you offer yourself a candidacy. When you offer yourself a candidacy, a vote is taken, you can use either the state or federal list. You want shortcut, you can do that way. We know all the voters in PJ for federal, and we know for state. All you do is delineate the boundary for Petaling Jaya or for Penang, and all those voters within the address there, you can automatically, but then you display the roles, you let people register and all that kind of stuff. I think it takes a year, not 6 months. And after that, you just hold elections, vote, and then that's it. You stand in public office. You can do that for the whole council and the mayor. You can do it for the mayor first, and then you can do it for the council later. It's no rocket science. It's been done all the while anyway. It's nothing new. It's just that I'm sitting there, I'm not appointed by the state, I'm appointed by you guys after the election. So obviously, it's not a difficult process. The question is, it needs to be done. Because it's been done all this while. I mean, the British, if you want to know the history of local government, the Council of Assessors 1801 is already in Penang, already started, and all throughout during the British administration, they encouraged resident associations to form groupings and go for elections to fill up all these places. So it's been practiced by this country. It's not alien.
Okay, I think we have gone through this very comprehensively. We thank you for all the sharp questions that you have asked, and thank you very much for your time to cover this press conference. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want a picture of the local elections at 1960, that's the law.